Hello and welcome to my channel. I hope I'm able to spread awareness about selective mutism through this video, and by this video I'm also taking a big step and I'm also helping myself out in a way. So thank you for taking some time to watch this video, and if you watched till the end, well, I'm even more grateful. Selective mutism, also known as SM, is an anxiety disorder in which a person who is normally capable of speech cannot speak in specific situations or to specific people. For me, the two social settings where I was physically unable to speak were both school and church. Also, it happens to whenever I had a distant relative, I would not be able to comfortably speak with them. I would just stay silent. I would speak, I remember that I would speak at the store because it's just me and my family, and there was just a bunch of strangers, but if there was a person there that I recognized, I was physically unable to. My forms of communication were basically whispering, but I would whisper to certain people, such as my teacher and maybe a friend or two, and also using gestures like nodding my head yes and no, and also there's a gesture for I don't know, which is like raising your shoulders up or something like that. And so that is how I would communicate. I did remember that I used to use a notebook and I would just write, and then that was also another form of communication, but I didn't really feel like I used that much. My voice sounds a little shaky, guys. Normally I'm able to speak, but I feel like this video is really kind of a tough one, but I really want to do this video. The earliest sign that I showed of SM was when I was around 3. My mom said that every last Saturday of the month, my class would go upstage and they would, just show what we learned that week or that month. And she remembers that I would show resistance and I would even cry because I was nervous and I did not like going upstage. So to the point where I remember when I was 4, again, I did not speak at church or school, not because I didn't want to, but because I was unable to. There's a difference. I also read somewhere, I'm gonna pull it up. Okay. That says that selective mutism is rare because I also don't know anybody who has it around me, at least. So it's a relatively rare disorder in children, causing inability to speak under certain situations. Kind of already defined that, but here it says it is estimated to affect 0.1 to 0.7% of the population. That's not even 1%, it's just 0.1 to 0.7. That's pretty rare, but it also says that a lot of the time it's a condition that is likely underreported due to the poor understanding of this condition by the general public. So since it is also poorly understood, I wanted to kind of spread awareness by telling my story. I feel like a lot of people that I know are not aware that I had SM, that I dealt with SM. So that's why I also wanted to make this video. Having SM really impacted me in a way. I feel like also I'm still kind of quiet, but I speak. But I feel like since I was so used to being silent, sometimes I'm just silent. But I do make an effort to speak now, because now I can. I've gotten over it. A lot of the time I was just confused to why I was different from everybody else, because they were able to speak to their friends, and able to communicate, just go to the bathroom, simple things, and I wasn't able to really do that. I had to whisper to my teachers, and there were some accidents here and there, and there was bullying, and there was a lot of negative, but I think that from the negative, I was able to sort out the positive. I feel like I even improved my own future because I overcame as them. And career-wise, college-wise, I've already helped myself out by taking that big leap. It wasn't something that happened at once. It took a lot of baby steps to get to where I am today. There's still a lot of other steps that I want to take to help me even more. Like, I want to keep going out of my comfort zone and just keep improving. So, yeah. Changes from public to private school, I noticed like the differences between them, and I think that going to private school helped me more. For public school, I remember that I had speech therapy, and my teachers were not concerned at all because I was able to learn and I wasn't behind other students. Having SM did not disable me in any way, like from school learning. They also had me learn some sign language, but I forgot that. In public school, there's a lot more students. I've only gone to 2 public schools, kinder, first, and second, and then from 3rd to on, like to 10th, I went to private. For both of them, I was able to make friends, but I feel like I was more welcomed in private school, and I was also able to get along with a lot of the students since the classes for the school that I moved in for 3rd grade were smaller, so it would be 3rd and 4th together or 2nd and 3rd together. Even though I had that condition, I was still welcomed by the kids, so that is like something that is like really nice because I was bullied in kindergarten and then I was bullied in 1st grade. I remember that I would not make a sound, if you know what I mean. Like, I would try not to make sound, and I would try not to get too much attention too because I did not like that. It was pretty easy to talk to strangers because they did not know that I had this condition, so many times I would be able to talk to strangers with no problem. But when it came to people I already knew since I was like little or so, and they knew that I was not able to speak, it was harder because there's certain expectations they have from you are different from strangers. One time I even lost my mom in Target, and so I went outside to check if her car was there and I didn't see it. So I went in, and then I went to find one of the staff from from Target, one of like the workers at Target, and I told them my mom's name and everything, and I was able to say that. But if I were like at school and if I got injured, I would not be able to tell anybody. Like, one time I remember that I fell down and I scraped my knee because I wanted to join some of my classmates because they were sitting down in a circle in recess, and as I tried to go, I slipped and I fell and I scraped my knee and I was starting to bleed, so I couldn't say anything. And one of the teachers that was outside was not in my class, so I did not whisper to her. What I did in that situation is that since she was sitting down in a bench, I went to sit down right next to her. And so she didn't really notice me at first, so I started to roll up my pants and like kind of put my leg like on top of my other leg, cross them. And then she was able to notice what had happened and she took me to the nurse. So I had to find a way to be helped in those situations. It was pretty inconvenient many times. The time when I took a big step really was in 6th grade, because before that I really did not know why I did not speak. For the longest time I actually thought it was shyness, but it's not shyness, it was SM. I was just really clueless because I did not know. Like, I really ended up finding out in 6th grade because of one of my teachers. And at that point, I really just wanted to talk. I was in 6th grade already. I was nearing high school in like 2 grades. So I just really wanted to talk that year. Although I was not able to talk that year, I made a lot of achievements, like actually like getting like my vocal cords to at least make some sounds first. Like I would say little things like ew, or like, I don't know, just little sounds to express myself in a way. And by doing these, like, I kind of made my voice a bit more stronger. Although it took a bit more, like into, I think you could say by 8th grade I was already speaking, but I would still not speak to certain people, but it was just because I was not close to them. But basically I would talk to everybody. Like if they talked to me first, then I would talk to them. In that year I was also able to be a part of like presentations, and I was even like the team leader for our group. So that was a good experience, and a lot of good things happened in 8th grade year. As far as I remember, I was able to overcome a lot of things, and I was so proud of myself. I even spoke at my graduation. I was able to say a few words and thank my parents, and that was a really big step, like at my graduation, because I had never used a microphone before. Also, there were a lot more accomplishments, but for the sake of the time, I will not say them. I think that I will do another video about SM soon, or sooner or later. I'll do another video dealing with SM because I want to answer any questions you guys have too. I also remember that the many positive things that happened that year, there were also some negatives that year. That year I developed really bad social anxiety. Though I already had anxiety like with speaking, developed one where I felt like everybody was judging me, and I wasn't even able to stand in the lunch line without feeling terrible. I even couldn't sit at the lunch table with my friends one day, and I just had to sit away from everybody that day. And I remember a lot of people were concerned, and at that time I also did not know that I had like really bad social anxiety. And that happened like ending the year. I also made new friends that year. That year I was also informed that I would have to move schools, so it really broke my heart. But changing environments is just really good when you have SM, because you are able to do more, because people don't have an expectation of you. They don't expect really anything from you because they don't know you. So in that way you're able to take even more steps. So that's what happened. Even though I already started speaking in 8th grade, in 9th grade I started speaking more to my teachers, which was something that I had done, but I had not communicated as much as I was doing now in 9th grade. I was communicating more with my teachers, and I was just able to speak even more. Like if I could ask questions, I would ask questions, and I would actually seek help, because most of the time I would not seek help at all. So 10th grade year, I was able to finally gain control of my social anxiety, because when I had entered 9th grade, it kind of disappeared, and it came back in around May that year, or not May, around March or April. And so it continued those months, and that was like the same time it had happened when I was in 8th grade. So I noticed a pattern, but in 10th grade I was finally able to gain control of it. And even that year I developed a mild depression, and I was also able to get over it. And so even through hardships, I was able to get through them. And now today I'm telling my story. So now that I did a little timeline from 6th to 10th basically, I am going to just talk about some things that happened, or things that I had forgotten had happened, because it's been a while if you think about it. One of the things that I remember is like when someone calls your name, you normally, you respond. But when you have SM, you don't know what to expect, so you're instantly starting to like fear like what's gonna happen next. But hearing your name is just, it should be something pleasant, but it's not, because you're just instantly starting to fear, and you're just like feeling nervous. You're just not wanting to know what's happening next. A lot of the time I was asked questions such as, why don't you speak? Why don't you talk? Are you okay? And a lot of the times it just made me feel really bad, because I didn't know why I was like that either. And so even though I wasn't able to respond, if I wanted to, I would not know how to. Another thing is that oftentimes people would just assume things about me, such as adults, which sadly this happened a lot at church. And it's supposed to be a place where people are more welcoming, like they're your family, you're like family in Christ. But I guess it's like ignorance and like not being aware of SM, because as I said earlier, it's pretty rare. Not a lot of the population is affected by it, and it's mostly existing in early childhood, and also in females usually. An incident that I recall is that one time an adult came up to me and she told me straight up, she was just like, you're being rude. But also I forgot to mention that I went to like a Hispanic church, so they speak Spanish. But this video is in English, but just if you speak Spanish, this would be in Spanish. It's disrespectful not to talk to adults or not to respond to adults or something. And that was like really upfront, that's kind of bold to say to a little kid. I was like barely like 4 or 5, and she just straight up came to me and told me that. It made me feel terrible again. So I felt down, and sometimes people even try to force me to talk. And one of the incidents was like that I actually kind of gave in, but it's like it didn't help, because it just made me resent one of my teachers even more, my Sabbath school teachers even more. Was that she gave everybody else a goodie bag, but she didn't give me one, because she wanted to hear me say please or something like that, or like to ask for the goodie bag. And me not really being able to, but me really being a kid and really wanting to have a goodie bag. Everybody else has goodie bag but me. I remember that I don't know what I said, but I said something like probably a word, and then she actually gave me the goodie bag, and I sat down and I was just feeling embarrassed and like, I don't know, I just felt like inferior, because everybody else got theirs and they didn't really have to ask for it, except I did. I was brought attention to. And going on with that, attention is something that is kind of negative, because when you have attention, you feel more pressure, because you're already really anxious and you're already really nervous and you're with a fear, and they are bringing attention upon you. Like the attention part, I just did not like attention, so I would try to do things that did not bring attention to me. And that's why also hearing your name is something that you don't want. Also, I got bullied for some reason. I'm not sure. I've heard that other people have gotten bullied for having SM, and I think that that's pretty dumb. Like, why would you bully somebody with SM? But it just happens, and I'm just glad that it was not something that I dealt with it for a very long time. But having been bullied before kind of made me like not like school in a sense too, and that was kind of like a bit traumatizing. I didn't go through like something terrible like other people have, but bullying is still bullying, so it's hurtful either way. One of the other things that I remember is that when I would cry, I did not like if somebody would see me cry, because it was like attention being brought to me. Again, you know, attention is like bad. And so I would just put my head down if I were ever to cry, just like try to make it unnoticeable, but I feel like I still brought attention towards myself in a way. Also, when you go home, since it's like your comfort zone, it's a place where you should feel safe. It's a place that you are able to just, you know, let everything out. So like when you get home from being like 7 to 8 to probably 9 hours at school, I'm not sure how long exactly, you are finally able to relax, even your shoulders, because sometimes my shoulders would be kind of sore from like being up, and I was just really relieved when I would go home because I was able to just be myself and feel safe. A lot of the time, there was a lot of things that I did not want to do. Like where you're in group and then there's a leader and like you're talking, like a retreat too. One of the things that I really hated were like icebreakers, or even at school, icebreakers or like introduction type games where you would have to like speak and kind of get out of your comfort zone. I really hated those. Those meant attention again. I feel like even though the intention is good, a lot of the times people with conditions or disorders or dealing with mental health struggle when normal, not necessarily normal, but people that are not affected by any of the 3 things that I said are fine and able to do. But going on, like when I started more speaking, those games were actually helpful because then I was able to have more exposure. But when I had SM still, it was something that I just dreaded so much. Believe me, there were a lot of things that I did not want to do, but I did them because it was going to help me in the future. It was gonna eventually get me to the goal that I wanted to do, which was eventually to speak. And well, speak in those social settings, because I'm already able to you're capable, but you're unable to physically because of fear. I'll say that my inspiration was just really wanting to speak, like having that want. I think I forgot to mention it in the beginning, but SM is actually a treatable condition, so you're able to work on it. But a lot of the times we don't know where to start. So for me, I just went to therapy, and that's when I really started to develop coping mechanisms and just things that, like goals or like little missions I had to do, like speak to someone new or like little things like that. Many of the times it depends on the person that has SM, whether they want to speak or not. Or like when they feel ready to, they'll do their own thing, but you just don't force them. Let them do their own thing. And that's what happened with me. Like, I did my own thing. There is a lot of negative, and with negative there's also positive. So having SM helped me have positive traits. Positive traits include being observant and having time to think, seeing a lot more than others. Also, in the thinking aspect, sometimes it causes you to overthink, but having a lot of time to think also like helps your imagination. So I feel like that helped too. That's something positive. Listen, like when somebody wants to vent or needs to vent to someone, I am a really good listener. And just talking when I'm ready to, because I've already thought about it. One of the things that I do remember is, or sometimes even now, because sometimes I just have gotten used to being quiet, but now the difference is that now I am able to speak and I've overcome SM. But it is constantly being seen as that quiet person, so it is hard to change when you don't have a chance, because you are used to it and so are they. Going on with the change of environments and stuff, that being good, there is also some other things that I want to add on to that. So one of them is people who have known you and you have known them, like you've gotten to know them, but they don't actually know you because they don't know you at all. So I don't know if I'm being really clear, but like these people who've grown up with me or like just seen me, been older than me, and they know me, but they have known me as the girl who had SM, or like the quiet one. They never really got to know me. So I have gotten to know them, but they never truly got to know me because I was struggling while they were just being able to be themselves. So I hope that kind of cleared it up a bit. I wrote these down like some notes because I was just remembering things, and that's what this is. It is like you knew them because they didn't have that sort of change you did, so they stayed the same in a sense. Another one is, it's tying into the first one kind of, if you know what I mean. They were themselves around you, but you weren't completely yourself around them. It's so weird or strange, so sometimes it's hard to open up or to be yourself around others. This is something that I felt a lot of the time because, at home I was able to be myself, but in these social settings I was not able to, and I was physically unable to speak to others. Yet I was still able to have plenty of friends and still kind of enjoy my childhood, but probably not to the fullest. So there were times where I felt that I was living 2 lives, or sometimes even 3. 2 because school and home, and 3 because church, school, and home. So that was change of environments. Going on to the next thing. Since I did change schools around 4 times, I was gonna say 5. I changed environments, I even changed churches now, and so changing to church, going on, I was mainly focused on school. So when I was doing the goals from school, I was able to just go from church and also speak to church. So I speak in church too now. It's weird when you don't have anxiety anymore, and you don't have SM or selective mutism anymore. And those people in the first environment that you were in see you as a changed person, and it's weird to see them because they kind of barely changed. I feel like my dogs brought me peace, and I was also able to like calm down since dogs don't judge you and they just love you so much unconditionally. And so I feel like that's why they're my favorite too. They're even used as emotional support and service dogs, and even in therapy, so it's like no wonder. I think that's why I love dogs and why they're my favorite. I hope my story can be kind of inspiring, but even though like I was able to achieve a lot of things, like I said in 8th grade, like, you know, I developed really bad social anxiety. Things were not always so well. Throughout my journey, there were many times where I broke down and started to cry because I felt it was impossible and so hard. I had many breakdowns, but if I let myself give in and just become negative and believe that it was something impossible in those moments, I would have never gotten where I am today. I don't know, like I'm just really proud of myself too, because I was able to overcome SM and I was able to be here today and speak about my story. This is kind of negative, but when I have met new people and perceived as shy, I would just not bother to tell my whole story, because if I explain, it's a pretty long story. Actually, recently I've been letting people know my feelings. Now, I say recently and like months ago because right now we're in a pandemic. So I'll say stuff like, I feel exhausted, I feel a little scared, just let it out. And I noticed that that actually helped me become more relieved in a sense and like a bit calmer. It's bad to hold it in, like how you feel, and like not have exposure, because eventually holding everything in is gonna make you burst one day. SM is like kind of like a breath. You go to school or you go to that social setting and you breathe in. You just hold it in. And then you get to your comfort zone, your safe space, also known as your house, and you let it out. I feel like going through those things and just SM in general made me understanding of others. So mainly therapy, I learned ways to cope, such as like, you know, positivity as well. One of the coping mechanisms was to think of a happy place. Now for me, the happy place that I first envisioned was with my second dog, Bailey, at the time, since I only had one dog at the time. And it was just like at this beach, and there was some people, but it was like calming and like the waves and everything. But there was like a little gate so that Bailey would not escape. And so that was the happy place that I would think of in times that I felt nervous or even scared. Now, that, like, I've changed my happy place a bit, but I still keep like a happy place in mind, because it's just like a really good way to like stay calm and like to be like positive. I focus a lot on the school setting because I spent the most time there, and also because I remember it the most. But I was still able to do accomplishments in the church setting. I think the most amazing one was school, because that's where I actually started to like tackle things and like really improve, and like just going on with that also like helped me. In church, what I did is I started to talk to one of my friends there little by little, and I had like kind of like a boost of confidence and exposure before I realized I had already started to talk at church. Whereas before, I would only talk to my school or church friends if they came over to my house. And now I'll just talk to you even if you don't go to my house. I began to call my friends on the phone, and I struggled at first, but eventually, time went on and the exposure, good exposure, not bad exposure, out of my comfort zone helped me, become more comfortable. And now I'm able to call and like FaceTime my friends. So that's another accomplishment. Today I may not be the most social person ever, but whatever effort I made in any progress so far is an accomplishment. Like, all these baby steps led up to something so beautiful, I guess you could say, like the beginning of new opportunities and new goals, new things, and more positivity, and just being in control of anxiety. There are people with selective mutism that have become adults, because as I said, it begins in childhood mainly and usually, that still don't speak. So it's still real to many, although it's treatable, and still struggle out there. So, I'm just thankful that I got over it, and I'm still able to, enjoy being a teen. But there was just some situation going on in my home that just made me depressed, and with the help of my other therapist, because I had two, so my second one is mainly in like 10th grade, so it just helped me be in control and like overcome depression. I will say I am so proud of myself for wanting and being able to act in order to change. And I just want to say that I hope my story will inspire you and make you more aware of SM or selective mutism, of what it is. And I also hope that you won't judge others because you do not know what they are going through or have gone through. I hope you will not bully others for being different. I hope that you are more aware of mental health disorders, and that mental health varies and everybody is different. But I hope that if you're going through a lot, that you won't be discouraged and that you will strive for what you want to accomplish. It took a lot for me to tell my story today. And my story, my journey, everybody goes through hardships and different struggles. You are capable of so much. I hope that you're able to know that you're capable of so much if you put your mind to it. Well, although there are people with SM who also posted YouTube videos on their story with SM, I feel like everybody's story is different in a sense, but similar in the same way. I feel that my personal story connects me with others, but also lets those around me know and become aware. I am able to find peace by letting it out and not keeping it to myself. I also want to be understood better by this. I have been treated differently, and I wish that I would have had the voice that I have today to tell those who assumed I was rude and those who disliked me for being silent. Because if I did, I would have been able to let them know. Even if it didn't change much, I would feel more at peace just having said what I needed to say. Lastly, by sharing my story, I am able to move forward in life and use this experience to be inspired to do more outside my comfort zone.